Hello. Welcome to my show, the Smile Revolution Show. We raise awareness to the healing power of a genuine smile. I don't smile all the time. Now, some people do, but it's about giving and receiving smiles. And I'm really excited about my show tonight with Holly George Warren, who wrote Dolly Parton's new book, Behind the Seams, My Life in Rhinestones, it's an amazing book. And so let's see, this is my 186th show since March 2020. However, I did have a radio show before. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for joining live. I always appreciate that. In these days, most people watch and replay. Anyway, I do have a joy poem that I want to read. Okay. It's kind of going all over the world right now. Because in January, I read that a lot of people are depressed and it's a hard time to really be joyful, but the joy is always there. So I found this amazing poem, Donna Ashworth. Joy does not arrive with a fanfare on a red carpet strewn with the flowers of a perfect life. Joy sneaks in as you pour a cup of coffee, watching the sun hit your favorite tree just right. And you usher joy away because you are not ready for it. Your house is not as it must be for such a distinguished guest, but joy cares nothing for your messy home or your bank balance or your waistline, you see. Joy is supposed to slither through the cracks of your imperfect life. That's how joy works. You cannot hide and you cannot invite her. You can only be ready when she appears and hug her with meaning, because in this very moment, joy chose you. Isn't that a great poem? I love that. I'm clearing my throat a lot. Okay. And then Lauren Molitor, a dear friend of mine who has a band with her twin sister in Austin, Texas, Rare Birds in Flight, submitted this song. I'm only going to read a little bit. Years ago, because I have a Smile album, Princess Wells Smile Revolution songs. I'm going to sing a little bit. I play ukulele, but I'm just going to sing a little a cappella. Give me a little smile and take my little smile, and we'll just smile a while so everyone can see. I may not know your name, but our world is the same. With all the fear and pain, a smile can set us free. Smile with me, laugh with me, love with me, smile with me. That's it. That's all I'm singing tonight. Okay, so who am I? I am the founder of the Smile Revolution, and which started with my dad. Last time I saw my dad, he gave me a big grin, and that smile changed my life for the better. And we had a difficult relationship, for those who have never seen my show. And I'm also a writer, performer. I do solo shows, one-person shows, which actually I've got one coming up April 11th in Manhattan at Pangea. Save the date kind of thing, because I have the tickets should be going on sale really soon, hopefully this week. Hopefully, we're working on it. So, and let's see, I make hats, and what else do I do? I paint on clothes and do this interview show. And what else? I don't know. I seem to do a lot of different things. A woman of many hats. And so let's see what else we have here before I bring on my interview. So my friend Momtaz Begum Hossein in London, she has this whole color therapy, it's a book, and then it's a whole coaching, a whole thing that she does. And my friends in London, actually, this new book I'm in, actually, Colin Allen, I think I did mention it last week. He just came out with this. It's Characters of the London Color Walk, Colin Allen. Anyway, I'm in the back page, and Sue Kreitzman, my dear friend, who's a world-renowned artist and curator, she does the foreword in it. And really grateful that I got in on the last page, because I don't live in London, but Anyway, so I read this tonight, which I think is interesting. In 2016, Tony B founded a group called In Colorful Company as a way of bringing together color-loving individuals. They meet up and go on photography walks together. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I didn't know about that. And then my friends in Color Walk. Now that started. It's every third Thursday in Old Spitalfield Market in East London, and they get together. And I've been there twice in person. Every third Thursday, and they all get together with all their colors and hats, and they're all artists, and then photographers come from all over, and it's about bringing joy, but also to support the market, and the market's amazing. So I don't want to talk too much because I want to get on with my interview. One more thing, and then the interview is going to start. The world according to Mr. Rogers. How great it is when we come to know that times of disappointment can be followed by times of fulfillment, that sorrow can be followed by joy, that guilt over falling short of our ideals can be replaced by pride in doing all that we can, and that anger can be channeled into creative achievements and into dreams that we can make come true. So, okay, now I'll tell you a little bit about Holly. This is the book. It's amazing book. It's been on the bestseller list 11 weeks so far. So Holly George Warren is the award-winning author of 17 books, including works on fashion, popular music, history, biographies, and most recently JANIS, Her Life in Music, Janis Joplin. I just read it. It was amazing. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times, Rolling Stone, OPRAH Daily, and many other publications. A 2-time Grammy nominee, she lives in New York's Catskill Mountains. Okay, so here we go. Hi, Holly.
Hello, how are you today, Mindy?
So good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Wowing out with Princess Wow. Cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so first I always like to say how I met my guest, right? So you and I met actually at remember the Women's Music Summit at Bearsville Theater?
Mm-hmm.
I love that event. Well, I don't know. I heard that you're not doing it anymore, but I'm so glad I was able to go.
Well, it was a ton of work, but so gratifying.
It really was.
Producing that, yes. And it may come back someday. Lizzie, who is the owner of the Bearsville Theater Complex and now many other properties in the town of Woodstock.
Right. She's taking over Woodstock.
Yes. She's had her hands full. She's been acquiring more properties.
Right.
But I hope someday we can do it again. It was a massive undertaking, and we worked on it for goodness about 6 months to put that whole thing together. But there were so many amazing women there, and I'm so glad you came. So I think it will come back. It's just a matter of time.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, well, that's good. And then Karen was there, Karen Millman, who I met briefly before the pandemic, and then I reconnected with her there. And now, we're very good friends. And then you and I reconnected through Karen. And so anyway, I'm really grateful to Karen.
Yes,
and
Karen is cool. Yeah, she's a cool rock and roll
She
gal.
really is.
Yes. We also sometimes meet up in New Paltz because we are both employed by State University of New York.
I know. Right.
So we get together every once in a while, and then I love going over to her neck of the woods on the other side of the river and going to fun rock and roll events together. So yeah.
Yeah, and she and I spent a lot of time together going to fun events. And anyway, and she lent me your book. I mean, Dolly Parton. Well, Behind the Seams, My Life in Rhinestones. I got to show it to everybody. It's an amazing book. I'm so grateful that I've been able to go peruse it through the holidays. It's so inspiring. And then I went to two of your book signings, the one at the Upstate Films. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Kingston. And I got to get more familiar with with everything. So anyway, okay. So let's see. I know that you did do, before you got this book project, you did do some liner notes. You did do some work a little bit with Dolly. So
yeah, over the years, as a music journalist, I reviewed lots of her albums over the years for various publications. I've had the great pleasure of seeing her perform in concert many, many, many times, which is
Oh,
always a thrill. And I did get the good luck to do liner notes with Dolly over the years. One time I even got to interview her via audio cassette. If people remember what audio cassettes are, some of
yes.
my favorite old technology. And
Uh-huh.
that was for the Trio box set. Trio was this incredible group she did with Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris over the years, whenever their crazy busy schedules would permit. And so finally, all the recordings they did were put together in one box set. And for that, I did some extensive liner notes. I had sent a list of questions to Dolly via her management, and thinking that I would get back, responses that she had given them typed up or whatever. But suddenly one day, this FedEx box appears on my doorstep up here in the Catskills. I'm like, what's this? I open it, and it was an audio cassette with Dolly answering all of my questions, reading the question out loud that they had
Oh,
sent her. She was in LA at the time. And then answering each of them on her audio cassette recorder. And it was really like having a conversation. She's so amazingly personable, and she just kind of really gets into whatever the project at hand is. And for this, she gave it her all, and it was just really helped my notes immensely. So I thought, when I finally get to spend time with her for this book project together, that's just going to be the tip of the iceberg. And I was right. It was an amazing experience to get to spend time with her and discuss her career, and also her amazing means of presentation that she's come up with, going all the way back to her childhood as a little girl in the backwoods of East Tennessee.
which is amazing. I know. So I mean, they had nothing, and her mother had to make clothes from scraps, and she has that coat of many colors, which she has that song, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and the knapsack. I don't know. She made her out of knapsacks or something? What was it?
Well, she made dresses out of the old sacks,
The
these kind of
sacks.
burlap type sacks that are
Right.
sometimes decorated of that flour, or that like cornmeal and animal feed was sold in. So because of their lack of, any kind of a budget for clothing, the mom would make those, but then she'd always try to pretty them up with like some little bits of rickrack. I don't know if
Right.
people remember rickrack, but I've always loved rickrack. My
Hmm.
grandmother used to sew for me and use rickrack too. So I've got a soft spot for rickrack. And so, yeah, but Dolly from a young age was also using what she could find out in the woods, pokeberries to make blush.
I
She
saw it.
would,
That's amazing. I can't get over that.
yeah, she'd like make embellishments for her hair and jewelry out of, acorns and all kinds of things. She'd feathers, bird feathers, chicken feathers, things like that. It's
It's
pretty cool.
incredible. I mean, it's incredible. And the one thing, this is on the beginning page, she said, if there's one positive thing about being poor, it's that it makes a person more creative. I think that's an amazing statement.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I'm from the South myself. I'm from North
Right.
Carolina. And my mom actually grew up in Appalachia, which is, the area, this huge swath of the Appalachian Mountains where Dolly was from. And it was so cool getting to talk to Dolly and realize some of their little verbal, tics and little expressions and things like that were some of Dolly's were very similar to my own mom's. So that was very cool for me to just kind of get into that. I love the way she expresses herself, and she's such a vivid storyteller and has such a great memory for her life story and all these little anecdotes and things. And just the fact that this woman has thousands and thousands of garments, but she could remember certain specific things about certain outfits, and even stories she told about when they were just living, in a very, as today we would see it as being a very kind of impoverished situation. But they seemed to be happy because they had this escape to run around and play. They had their music. A lot of people in her mother's family were musical, and her mother not only gave her the gift of making her these outfits, and of course, most famously, the Coat of Many Colors, which she
Right.
wrote a song about, which she says is her favorite ever song she ever wrote, but
Oh,
also
wow.
Yeah, she passed down to her songs from, the kind of Appalachian, Scots-Irish balladry that goes way back. So she really took a lot of these elements to create this amazing persona for herself, but also just she found her talent and she worked at it beginning at a very young age. I mean, she was 10 years old when she started singing on a radio show based out of Knoxville, which was the
Oh,
closest to her. And then it was just a little local show started by the guy who had the grocery store, It was like
uh-huh.
a little promotional thing
Oh,
for his
wow.
grocery store. Yeah, the Cass Walker show. And then she ended up getting to be on his TV show that he had, the little regional TV show. So she started pursuing showbiz at a very young age. She knew
Okay.
she wanted to be a recording artist, a singer, and she actually did start. I think she was about 13 when she took the bus all the way from Tennessee down to Louisiana to record her first songs, some of which she
Oh,
co-wrote.
wow.
So yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
But it's interesting too because women didn't wear makeup. The way how she wanted to present herself, as people, her mother would say, it's like trash. Like they were against
Hmm.
how she wanted to present herself, right?
Yeah,
From
yeah,
even this little girl.
exactly, because in addition to coming from this musical family, some of the her grandfather was a kind of a fire and brimstone preacher, and this is the kind of evangelical type of beliefs where women are not supposed to wear makeup,
Right.
they're not supposed to show any skin. Very, very opposite than what Dolly Parton wanted to be herself.
Right.
And she had to stand up against that. She even said, like, I had to, it was worth getting a whipping, to dress the way she wanted to. And again, even though she grew up, I mean, she graduated from high school, I believe it was 1964. So you think about what was going on in the world during that period. But because they didn't have a lot of, radio or TV or anything like that, she kind of had to figure things out on her own, except
Hmm.
for, I guess, when she would go to Knoxville and do this radio show and the TV show, she started getting hip to what was happening in the world of entertainment.
Right. Right. So, okay. It's like also your mother is from where was she? She's from from North Carolina,
Yeah, Western North Carolina, kind of near Asheville, North Carolina.
and she was into Dolly, and you were into, well, then as I was too, rock music, but she
Yeah.
was into Dolly, right?
Mhm. Yes, she would watch the Porter Wagoner TV show, and we're like, "Ooh, yuck."
Right. Right. Yeah. Uh huh.
And of course, now I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love that show, and I love Dolly." And it's interesting because in the '70s, after Dolly left Porter, she started, she really became the toast of New York City. People from, not country music fans just really went nuts over her because, I mean, she had such a unique voice, that beautiful soprano. Her songs, which I love, her really country, songs that she did with Porter now, I mean, I love that stuff. But back in those days, it was
Not
radio and everything was very stratified. So you either listen to the country or rock and roll, whatever, and you had these camps. So of
right.
course I
And
was in the rock and roll camp.
I was listening to Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who, by the way, Dolly shares a birthday with.
I know.
They're both Janice and Dolly, January 19th, which is coming right up around the
Yeah.
corner.
Yep. I know, which is really, and I just finished your book, Janis Joplin, the Janis book. It was so great. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
wish I
Really
wish
amazing.
I knew what Janice thought about Dolly. I think she probably loved her because I know she loved like Jean Ritchie, for example, who is not very well known, but she also had that pure mountain soprano voice. I think she was from West Virginia, I think, maybe Kentucky. But anyway, I know Janice was a fan of hers, and
Okay.
yeah, and I know she liked Loretta Lynn. She liked Kitty Wells. Rose Maddox, Janis loved. And Rose Maddox, a lot of people don't know that name, but she was this incredible kind of hillbilly boogie singer. And
Mm-hmm.
she and her brothers, the Maddox brothers, really got dressed up in these amazing, eye-catching outfits with all kinds of embroidered motifs all over them. Great, great colors. Of course, Rose, because of her name, had lots of floral motifs just embroidered all over her little cowgirl outfits. And Dolly saw them at a young age and was very impressed by the showmanship, but also their presentation. And that
Uh-huh.
really inspired her to come up with her own unique look that she would wear on stage.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, great. Now with the book, okay, this is one thing she said too. I just wanted to be different. I wanted to be seen. And I love how on the back of your book, of her book and your book, is this costume that was made for the book, which I think
Mhm.
is really neat.
Yeah, it's very cool. Steve Summer, her Dolly's 30-year creative director, and her niece Rebecca Seaver, who curated the photography and figured out which of the costumes and which of the outfits to photograph for the book. Um, they cooked that idea up as a representation of different elements of Dolly's career and her presentation.
Hmm.
So Dolly talked about how much she loved it when fishnets came in back in the
Me too.
60s. And
Yeah.
so there's like some fishnet sleeves. Of course, the butterfly is Dolly's motif,
Yeah.
kind of her
Right.
symbol. She loved butterflies even as a little girl,
Hmm.
when they were flying around. Another bit of color in her Appalachian hometown.
Right.
And then she's always used that kind of as her emblem. And then, of course, it also references the coat of many colors, the way it's got kind of that different patchwork of different colors as well.
Right. Hmm.
So, and just the fact that it's an over the top extravaganza.
Right.
And it's been on exhibit, actually, the dress down at a place in Nashville called Lipscomb University. And they have a design school there, et cetera. And so I got to go down for the exhibition of some of Dolly's costumes, including that dress. So it
Oh,
was
that's
very cool to
cool.
get to
That's
see it
really
in
neat.
person. Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of her costumes there, or just that one?
No, there's a bunch. There's, I think, about 25 garments total. It may have just closed, but I'm sure there's the local TV news channels came out and photographed and filmed some of the big gala, opening festivities, which I was
Mhm.
lucky enough to get to attend, and Dolly was there.
Oh,
And yeah, so it was very cool. So you could probably find some pictures on
okay.
YouTube, some footage and everything like that.
Oh, that's really cool. And then she also was really into Christmas,
Oh, she loves her
right?
Christmas,
And
which,
here's one of her outfits. Let's see. Wait a minute.
oh yeah, that's one that she was wearing when she posed for Rolling Stone magazine. Back in the 70s, I believe it was. Yeah. So, yeah, it's her archive, which I also had the good fortune to visit, has this huge Christmas section. And basically, going back to the 60s, when she first started getting her custom work made for her by a woman named, one of the people, his name is Lucy Adams. And she was kind of a home seamstress, but started making things for Dolly
Right.
and making her little Christmas outfits every year. Because even then, Dolly loved to dress up for Christmas. Sadly, they never had any sort of real Christmas celebration at her home growing up, just again, because of lack of finances.
Right.
There
Right.
was, she grew up one of 12 children that her mom had by the
Hmm.
age of 35. If you can think about
Wow.
why she wanted to stand out and be different, to be one of 12
That's
kids,
amazing. I didn't know
you'd have to
that.
kind of
Wow.
work hard to just get your parents' attention, right?
Right. Wow. That's
So,
amazing.
so anyway, she loved Christmas, and as soon as she started making some money in Nashville, first on the Porter Wagner show with her recording deal and having some hit songs, she would really treat her younger siblings to all kinds of fun Christmas festivities, decorate her house, and she still does that to this day. Now it's for her nieces and nephews, and then her great
Right.
nieces and great nephews. So.
That's really neat. And then tell us a story. I like the story about when her sister was out in Hollywood. and
Oh
she,
yeah,
that's a
that was
good
really
story. Yeah,
cool. Yeah,
yeah.
her sister, I believe it was Rachel, was playing Dolly's role on the TV version of 9 to 5. So she was out in LA for the holidays. And as part of her kind of family gathering, I think, the night, a night or so before Christmas, Dolly gets all dressed up in her Santa outfit. She's got an elevator at her mansion that she decorates and makes it look like a fireplace. So she comes down, from through the chimney to hand out all the gifts to all the kids that are there. And they had a big cookie making gathering as well. So soon after that occasion, she just couldn't bear to think of her sister not being part of it that year.
Right.
So she hopped on a plane, flew out to LA, still in her crazy little, Santa Claus suit. And of course, the flight was pretty empty. I think it was Christmas morning or something like that. And when her sister saw her get off the plane at the airport dressed like that, it was just this incredible moment. And of course, the few people that were on the plane got treated to Dolly singing some Christmas songs over the PA.
That's amazing. I mean, that is like so incredible.
I know. Can you imagine being
No,
one of
I
those
mean,
people?
I know that's amazing story. So anyway, and then let's talk about, okay, so when you actually, when you got the book deal, you think you partly because of your name, right? It's like
Well,
Holly. She loves Holly and it's Christmas, and, right?
that's what I like to joke and
I know,
say.
right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, they reached Team Dolly reached out to me. They knew they were going to do this book. I don't think they actually even had their publisher yet, but they did another beautiful, oversized book back in 2020 called Song Teller, which is kind of the stories behind all of Dolly's favorite, most famous songs.
Oh,
And it's the same size, beautiful photography as well. So they wanted to do another book that kind of format, but focus on her clothing and her presentation. So I fortunately have written, in addition to writing a lot about music over the years, I do have my little passion of fashion passion.
great.
And so I'd written a book with John Varvatos, the menswear designer, who's very inspired by rock and roll with his clothing designs. And then I'd also written a book called How the West Was Worn. I co-wrote that with Michelle Friedman on the history of Western wear. And that was a companion book to an exhibition on the history of Western wear that started at the Autry Western Center out in Los Angeles and traveled all, several museums across the country.
That's
So
so cool.
so I've gotten to write about that kind of thing over the years. Now, interestingly, Dolly herself is not really into cowgirl clothes or Western fashion, except when the song, she loves to dress in themes. So if there's a Western theme, or if she's performing at Austin City Limits in Texas, for example, she'll wear the Western look.
Okay,
But overall, that's not really her jam. Although, of
right,
course, we
yeah.
all know Porter Wagner with his incredible nudie suits. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, I got to interview him for How the West Was Worn,
Oh
and
wow, that's so
he was very
cool.
proud that he could still fit into all 52 of his custom-made nudie suits.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I interviewed him like in 1998, I think it was. But anyway, so they contacted me, and we had some Zoom meetings because the pandemic was
Right.
horribly raging at the time. And we all really seemed to see eye to eye on some ideas about, it's not just the superficial thing. There's meaning,
Oh, there's a
there's
lot of
all
depth
kinds
to
of
it.
ideas that are expressed through people's presentation, through their clothing, through the persona that they create. And I
Yep.
have written about that in various other books and magazine articles over the years,
Uh-huh.
etc. So so I kept, moving up the food chain and being a finalist as the writer. And then they asked if I would write a little, bit of text on spec. They sent me some images of one of her 60s outfits, etc. So I wrote a little, piece on that. And yeah, it was very exciting. Then they contacted me and said, yeah, Dolly loved what you wrote, and she'd love for you to be her co-author on this. So it was very exciting moment.
But then you
I didn't
also
want to
had
get
a
my hopes up,
possible
but it happened.
conflict. What?
I said I didn't want to get my hopes up, but it
Right.
happened. I was very
All right,
thrilled.
but you did
Yeah,
have a slight conflict because you were
yeah,
already working with Jack Kerouac, right?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. I mean, I am an author, and so you're always coming up with different projects. I mean, that's your livelihood, right? So another amazing opportunity had come my way during the pandemic. And what happened was the estate of Jack Kerouac had contacted me to see if I would want to write a biography of Kerouac. Biographies are another area that I do, and which are the hardest, most complicated, time-consuming books to work on. So, as you mentioned, I had done a Janis Joplin book that came out in 2019, and in that book, I had talked about how Janis was so inspired by the writing of Jack Kerouac, and how that kind of inspired her to leave Texas and
get on the
etc.
road. Yeah.
So the estate had read that and contacted
Oh,
me to see if I would want to have access to all of Kerouac's personal papers.
that's so cool.
Yeah, so I'd spent a long time working on a book proposal for that. They're very time consuming for my agent to shop, and I'd just gotten the book deal. I had signed the contract with Viking, which is part of Random House Penguin, and it turns out that my editor, there's like a non-compete clause in a contract that you can't be doing another book that's going to compete with the one that you're just signed up to do. But luckily, who can say no to Dolly, right?
Right.
And then, as it turns out, my agent had already made sure it was going to be okay with my editor if I did this little side project, because they are very different.
Yeah.
And but then the good news was that when the team Dolly put their everything together and started shopping the book with my name attached, it turned out that they ended up with a company called 10 Speed Press, which is part of Crown, which is also part of Penguin Random House. So it turned out to be the same company anyway. So
okay, and that's neat.
All was well with the world.
It all worked out. Okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm just going to show really quick her shoes. I don't know how she walks in these, but she loves high heel shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything is big.
Yes,
her,
big. Yeah.
Big,
she, she's a very tiny woman. She's barely 5 feet tall.
Really? So, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, she's very tiny, and her bones. She's got very fine bone structure. Narrow little shoulders, and a lot of her idea of the way she wants to present herself is exaggeration. So she gains like 5 inches just from those high heels alone,
and then her wigs
another couple of 2 or 3 inches from the hair,
right.
So and she started wearing high heels as soon as she possibly could, even as a little girl, when they were getting charity boxes of rags and clothes and used shoes and things like that. She found a pair of bright red high heel shoes when she was just a little tyke, and she's like, these are mine, I want these red high heels. So she knew what she liked. Now, of course, her status and her lifestyle enable her to get all of her shoes custom made.
Right.
So she claims that they're not uncomfortable.
I know, right. I read that. Yeah, I know. That's really great.
So well constructed. Yeah.
Well, that's really good.
I mean, believe me, I'm one of those people. I can wear cowboy boots with some heels on them, but if I wear super high heels, I literally have to take a leave or something that before I go out. Just so
I'm the same way. I cannot.
And I walk like kind of a penguin or something.
Right.
Too.
I can't stand it. I've worn high heels very rarely in my life. I like being comfortable.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so the book is very collaborative though, because like you have like your section where it's your name underneath, and then she writes, and or did you do the interviews with the hairstylist and makeup artist, or did Rebecca did that?
Yeah, Rebecca did all those interviews. They were all recorded. And then I took the transcriptions of the interviews with all the people and turned them into first person narratives.
Okay.
So, which is a really fun, I love doing that. It's, taking other people's words and using their words to craft kind of a memoir, autobiographical little snippet there. So, and in fact, as I mentioned on that audio book that's available, you can actually hear the designers and the hairdressers talking on the audio book. Yeah, because those were all state-of-the-art recorded as well. All the interviews that I did with Dolly and her niece did with Dolly those were actually filmed and, on a sound stage at she's got this amazing complex with her manager down in Tennessee. with all kinds of like sound stages, recording studios, offices. So that's where we did our interviews, and through that material, I was able to work with Dolly to craft her text and everything.
Okay, so you and I talked about the audiobook before I started recording. So let's tell the audience how they can hear the audiobook version.
Yeah, the audiobook is very cool because obviously you can't see the amazing photos. So it's a
Right.
great compliment, I think, to having the book.
Right.
And instead of Dolly just reading her text that's in the book, there's actual real recordings of her and Rebecca's discussions, although you can just hear Dolly talking. And she's such an amazing storyteller, telling the stories that became the text of the book. And she is just funny and charming, and she's just a great conversationalist. So you almost feel like you're in the room with Dolly, and she's telling you these stories that became the book. And then also, I got to read my little bits. I write this introductory text to each chapter that kind of puts things into context where she was with her life and career at that time, because the book is arranged chronologically. And then we've got the sidebar. So as I mentioned, we have some of the creatives who came up with her look with her. Again, she's a very, very collaborative person. So she collaborates with these people on her looks. And also with some of the photographers. She's very good at collaborating with photographers as well. So we get to hear from them. Then there's also some of her songs are interwoven throughout the text as well. So you get to hear a little musical break on the audiobook. And in addition to that, there's some audio archives from her TV show from the 80s. And then also when she was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. So there's a lot of really cool little bells and whistles. It's a real fun, entertaining listen.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's organized by chapter. You can hear it on, Audible. If you have Spotify Plus, that way, etc. So I highly recommend it. And it's fun to listen to it while flipping through the book and looking at the pictures and everything.
Oh, that's really neat. That's really neat. And then I just love all her wigs. I mean, it's like amazing, these wigs. Let's see. Well, she's got there's like pages of all her wigs.
Yeah.
It's
and
amazing.
all her wigs down through the years.
Right.
Again, it was great hearing from her wig stylist as well. Just some stories about, some of the, she actually names her wigs. They have different little names, and they'll refer to them by their names. So it's kind of cool. One's called Cupcakes and, stuff like that.
And they're all blonde.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny.
Yeah.
I think she's went out once with like a black wig or something. I think her niece was telling me that Rebecca said they went out once for Halloween or something, and she was wearing a black wig, and people recognized her anyway.
Right. She's pretty. You can't miss her.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's interesting because when she went to Nashville, we're going to go backwards, but when she went to Nashville and she was in her 20s, or when did she go?
No, she was 18. She moved there for good the day after she graduated high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she thought that everybody would love her look and everything, and people were telling her to tone it down.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. It was very much a male-controlled music industry there in Nashville. And in fact, in those days, we're talking mid-60s, even record labels, if they had one woman signed to the label, this was rock and roll, but also country music, that was it. Like, we only have one woman. There was even a rule that they would only play one woman on the radio. They wouldn't play back-to-back women. I mean, it was really super sexist and awful for women. But here's this woman who is this 18-year-old bombshell, which was the look she was going for. I mean, she loved that look, and she had the big hair, she had this incredible figure, which she really tried to emphasize through her super tight clothing, etc., and high heels, etc. But they were like, she was, they recognized her songwriting talent and this incredible voice. But her record label, Monument, was they were like, well, we're going to have to take you out shopping. You got to tone it down. And, this was, again, mid 60s. The folk boom had, was starting to die down a
Right.
little bit, and the Beatles were coming out. So it was more kind of long, straight hair, etc. And
Right.
she did have kind of a pure kind of folky kind of voice. So in the beginning, they were trying to market her as kind of a pop folk singer
Right.
on Monument, her first record deal. And she's like, not having it. She's like, no, it's not me. This is me.
Right.
She loved that kind of exaggerated big hair, the flashy clothes, and all that kind of stuff. So, and then the same thing when she became very successful on the Porter Wagner show and got a record deal with RCA, which was this major, major label.
Well, he was telling her to tone it down. She had to, because he was so flashy.
Yeah, exactly. And then Chet Atkins, who was very famous, former guitar player, still play guitar, but was the head of RCA. He did the same thing. And he was, I think, also from Tennessee. And like, now, Dolly, you got to just tone it down or people aren't going to take you serious. She's like, you know what? My career will speak for itself because of my talent. My talent will show people what I've got to offer them. And I want to look the way I want to look, and they're going to see whatever they want to see in me, but they'll hear my songs, hear my voice, and that's what's going to make the difference. And so she stuck to it. And sure enough, she became hugely famous and so recognizable with that unique style. And then funnily, as she tells in the book, years later, Chet Atkins said, when she was a superstar by the 80s, Dolly, aren't you glad you listened to my advice?
Right. That's funny.
Yeah. And she's like, I guess I was right, huh?
That's funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I love the whole idea, why what she inspired with this book is that she says on the back, I love this at the back quote, clothes are like songs. Just as hearing certain music brings back particular memories, so it is with certain outfits. This book tells the story behind some of my favorite clothes, both on and off stage, and I hope it will inspire you to celebrate your own sense of style.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, be that, and enjoy your journey behind the scenes. So that's her whole message.
Yeah.
It's in the beginning
totally.
too. It's in the beginning too.
Yeah. How, the way you choose to present yourself can really be empowering. You can be and look whatever way you feel inside. And of course, I think that's one reason why she's been so embraced by the LGBTQ community, because she's always been incredibly supportive of people, living and looking the way they feel inside, rather than, whatever gender they're born or whatever. You can be whatever, and whatever makes you feel comfortable is the word she's always used. Whatever you feel comfortable with being your true self, then be it. And, you don't have to kind of cower to whatever
and conform
norms are. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, I've always been that way too. So I can relate to her and to JANIS, fighting for being yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Dressing the way you want and being you.
Yeah. And it's true that, I've seen it as a music journalist, and, people do tend to sometimes kind of stereotype people, or call them like novelty acts and things like that, because they come up with these very unique individual ways of presentation. I think Cyndi Lauper is an example of that. Cyndi Lauper is this incredibly gifted, talented singer, songwriter, producer. She's amazing. And from the beginning, she came up with her zany, girls just want to have fun look, etc. She's always had this very cool persona that she's presented. But I think, some people in the established, judging, music judging categories, don't take her as seriously as she should be taken.
Oh, I've always loved her look and her whole I've always loved it. But I could see that would be, the case with her. But I've always appreciated it.
Yeah, exactly. And then other people, there's a lot of different artists that you can see too. I remember Culture Club, Boy George,
Right. Yeah.
another one. I mean, so a lot of people who are judged by the way that they choose to present
So
themselves.
unique, very
Yeah,
original. Yeah.
because it's outside
The
even
norm.
the rock
Right.
norm, the rock stereotype, etc.
And Jimi Hendrix. I always loved his look
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, you mentioned my Janis Joplin biography. It was unbelievable the way she was treated and described by the press. When
Yeah.
she's another one who came up with this very unique look and presentation, and she would just be, ripped to shreds
Yeah.
by journalists about the way she looked. It's,
Yeah. I
so
know. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Anything that's different, a lot of people can't grasp it.
exactly.
And so they
Yeah.
just like anything they don't understand, they're going to tear down. So, anyway, is there anything else that you want to mention about the book?
I guess, one thing about the book that I think has made it be such a big hit, and I'm very excited and proud to say that I think this is the 11th week it's been
Really?
on the New York Times bestseller list. So
Great.
it's been,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's incredibly gratifying that the book has just reached so many people. And I think there is a joyfulness to the book.
Yeah.
And, she goes into some of the dark times that she's had in her life and some struggles that she's had. But I think just um, the ways that she has risen above struggles, the way
Mhm.
that she's been able to survive, the slings and arrows of fame, etc. And there's this joyful hopefulness that comes through Dolly's way of like articulating, her
Mhm.
story, that I think people find very hopeful in these, dark times that we
In
live
these
in.
times, exactly.
So yeah, so I
I know.
think
I agree. It's very inspiring for me too to have done a deep dive into the book, your book, and everything, and her. And she is very inspiring, and she does so
yeah,
much good for so many organizations and people. I mean, she's an amazing person. I mean, she
yeah,
really is so inspiring.
yeah.
And
She's
I
very,
have to
very generous.
say, huh?
She's very, very generous with
She
everything she
really
has
is.
done, giving back. Oh my
Right.
goodness.
Yeah. And also, I've been listening this morning to her song "World on Fire,"
Mm,
and she's usually, as you said, never political in her songs, except for this song.
I know, right?
And I can't stop listening to it. It's such a
Yeah.
powerful song. It's so, I mean, I've listened to it over and over this morning. And her new album, and she never did rock music, and now her new album, Rockstar, is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I would quibble a little bit with that because
Oh,
I
okay.
think some of her songs were definitely rock and as far as attitude goes,
Uh-huh.
and even as far as some of the rhythms and things like that. And she has covered some cool rock songs over the years. Like I love
Okay.
the version of that she and Trio, did back in the day of a Neil Young song "After the Gold Rush." I mean,
Uh-huh.
check it out; it's amazing.
Oh, okay. I love that
Yeah.
song.
And then even if you just see how her songs have been covered by rock artists, I mean, Jolene, for example, so many
I
different
love that
artists,
song. Yeah,
including,
that's a great song.
Jack White, White Stripes, etc. So I think the fact that her songs that she's written lend themselves to so many different treatments musically, sonically. She's always had that rocker inside, but she sees herself as a pure country artist,
Right.
or at least
Okay.
that's kind of her core being. But then
Right.
again, I mean, I found out all these others, she had this huge kind of dance song with Galantis, for example. I mean,
Oh,
her yeah, her different sonics are all over the map. So it's
okay.
went through her little disco phase, of course, and then she had those huge pop hits as well. And arguably pop and rock are kind of intermingled in many ways. So, so it's kind of a semantics thing. But her
Okay.
Rockstar album is a really fun listen. I highly recommend that too.
Yeah.
For example, her version of Let It Be that she does with Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Mick Fleetwood's on there,
Oh, I
Peter
didn't know
Frampton's
about
on
that.
it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that is a revered, Beatles song, but
Right.
she turns that into a hymn. It
Oh,
is
wow. Oh, that's so
unbelievable. I
cool.
mean, your eyes will water. Listen, it's very has a sacredness to it. It's incredible, very spiritual. But
Oh, that's so neat.
yeah,
No,
and then she got yesterday was Elvis Presley's birthday. So of course she grew up loving Elvis,
right.
and there's a really fun song original on there too. I think it's called I Dreamt of Elvis Last Night or something to that effect. But I love that song. It's
Oh, I'll have to listen to that too.
it's a lot of
Okay,
fun.
that's neat. Oh, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I
then she does a great
appreciate it.
duet with Stevie Nicks too. I love.
What?
There's a great
A
duet with
song?
Stevie Nicks.
Oh. Oh,
And it was a
wow.
song that Stevie Nicks, also a woman that's really, came up with an incredible
Well,
presentation, who
yeah.
now has a Barbie. I'm dying to get the Stevie Nicks Barbie doll.
Really? Oh, that's
Now, yeah,
amazing. Oh,
yeah.
wow, that's so
It's got her whole
cool.
kind of Rhiannon kind of look, and stuff. But anyway, it was a song that Stevie Nicks wrote back before she joined Fleetwood Mac, when she was with Lindsey Buckingham,
Uh-huh.
Buckingham Nicks.
Right.
And it's a really cool song too, that kind of questions the whole rock and roll kind of idea. So I recommend that one too. There's a lot of good stuff on the record.
Oh, great. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, thank you. So I have to say, I'm so grateful to do this interview with you and to be able to do a deep dive into the book and Dolly and everything. It's really been a real inspiration to me.
Well,
I'm
thanks,
sure
Mindy.
to my audience too when they get to watch this.
Princess, wow, it's so fun to be with you. And I will
Thank you.
toot my own horn to say that if this airs, I think before January
It
19th,
will,
which, as
yeah.
I mentioned, is both Dolly's birthday and Janis's birthday. Some other luminaries, including Edgar Allan Poe, and some very cool people that you might not even realize have that birthday. There's a very neat bookshop in High Falls, New York, called Blue Heron Bookshop, and they're having an event celebrating the January 19th birthdays of Janis, Dolly, and these other people. And it starts
Wow.
at 5:30 at the Blue Heron Bookshop. You can check it out on there. They have a website online.
Oh, that's
And I'm going to
neat.
be there, and I'm going to be doing a little conversation, talking about the Dolly book and maybe reading a little bit from the book. And then it's going to continue after the bookshop event from 5:30 to 7. There's going to be another gathering up the road at I think a cidery. So it should be a fun evening. So Friday, January 19th. Don't miss
Great.
it.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad to know about that. Yeah, this will be airing before that, so
Oh, okay, good.
watching that. Okay, great. Okay, well, Holly, this has been a real joy and a pleasure to do this, and
Thank
really
you.
grateful to
Thank you,
see you.
PW.
Okay, thank you, and
And
I'll
I'll
be
see you
seeing you
this
real soon.
weekend. I'll see you Saturday night with our
Yeah,
boogie shoes
got
on.
my outfit. Okay,
Yay.
okay, great. All right, I'll see you.
Thanks so
I'll see
much
you
for
soon.
having me.
Thank you. Okay, talk to you soon. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye. I hope you enjoyed that. She's great. Anyway, so amazing person, and Dolly, and just everything is just so great. Anyway, I'm so happy to be able to interview Holly. Anyway, and then I have this. My friend Laura Molitor gave me this a long time ago. Working on that, and so next week, I'm not sure. We'll see what happens next week. Actually, Holly's husband, Robert Burke Warren, who actually we went to, he does every year, except in the pandemic, a David Bowie birthday tribute. So that's what we were talking about. We're just there at the Colony in Woodstock. It was really great. And my friend, Doug Milford, sang Suffragette City. He hadn't been on stage in 40 years because he had a band in high school, and he's, just retired recently in his art field, being an entrepreneur. Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Nancy. And so, anyway, that was really amazing. It was such a great night and packed. So it was exciting. That's what we're talking about. So, anyway, Robert Burke Warren, her husband, edited a book called Cash on Cash, Johnny Cash Interviews. And I'm reading it now. They just gave me the copy. So I may be interviewing him for next Tuesday. We'll see. I'm waiting to hear back from him. And then I've got Carolyn Hester coming up in 2 weeks, who got Bob Dylan on the map. And I met her at the Music Plus Revolution concert at Carnegie Hall. I met her at the after party. And so I'm getting an interview with her. So I'm excited about that too. So stay tuned. And I am going to sign off with my credits if I can find them. Okay, so keep smiling, keep sweet, join the smile revolution. Yes, there's lots of challenges going on, but if we can focus on gratitude, I'm working on my gratitude list. I hope you are too. And Gumby is always smiling and giving you a big hug. And so my show, I have a new tagline. It's like, what is it? It's fun, smiles, and style. Thanks, Stevie Kalinich. So I'll talk to you all soon, and share this. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're still watching, and need more subscribers. And let me see if I can sign off with my credits. Okay, lots of love. Bye. It's called the Smile Revolution that comes, goes round and back to you. So smile, 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 a simple smile will do. Smile, 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 and come back to you. Bye.